always be moving forward. Figure out what you can do today to move your business forward.
Welcome back to another installment of the NextGen Case Study series. On today's episode, we have Thomas McClendon, who is the president and founder of Citadel Networks, a leading technology solutions provider based in Portland, Oregon. Since founding the company in 2015, Thomas has been dedicated to offering reliable and professional IT services, ensuring that businesses in Portland, Beaverton, and Hillsborough have robust network security and IT infrastructure solutions, which is why we're excited to have him on the show. Thomas, welcome to the program.
Great. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you about some of the stuff that you're working on here. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the conversation, let's start with maybe a couple of minutes on a background of who you are, where you came from, and how you landed as the president of Citadel Networks.
So I've been a lifelong geek. I've always been enthralled by technology. About 25 years ago, that's when I really started making my mark. I bought my first computer, decided to upgrade it, and there was this little sticker that said warranty void if removed. Took me about 5 minutes, but I voided my warranty very quickly. That sort of got me really going in the IT field. It was about 15 years ago. I actually branched off onto myself. I quit a job to be more of a stay-at-home parent, help my wife with our 3 kids at the time. And from there, about 8 years ago now, I branched off into Citadel Networks, where we focus primarily on the cybersecurity and IT compliance now, which are the big things that are going on in the business world.
Yeah, that's very relatable. I remember growing up when computers first came out, and I was a tinkerer. My parents still to this day make fun of me for never playing with my toys, always taking them apart. So I can really relate to that, Thomas. So being the president and founder of a IT company, there's a lot of hats to wear, especially in the early stages. I wonder if you could explore how your role in the company has kind of evolved since starting it, and then maybe get into some of the day-to-day stuff that you're up to.
So really, it's exactly that. When you first start a business, you are wearing all the hats, from not only building the business, but you're also working in the business and on the business at the same time. And eventually what I found is that I had to transition to working on the business, not in the business. So that meant that I needed to start hiring people to do some of the jobs I do. I had to hire technicians to do some of the work that I used to do because I didn't want to spend my days necessarily repairing computers all day, fixing computer issues. That was something I could hire for. That freed up my time to start working on the business, developing my culture. What makes my business different than everybody else, right? Eventually, it leads to hiring a marketing manager to really start pushing the company forward in sales. Because again, that is one hat that you necessarily can't wear all the time. But if you're not out to bringing in sales, your company's not going to grow. So it really transitions to being, you've got to work on the business, develop the vision, and then working that vision into a plan.
Yeah, the necessity to balance this fulfillment of the things that you promise to the clients that you take on, but then also, hey, I need to get more clients because if I don't, the business is going to dry out and I'm going to be right back where I started. And that's a difficult balance to strike, but it seems to me like you found, a nice little groove. You've kind of gotten into a place where all of the different puzzle pieces are kind of coming together here. How did some of that early influence of your experience, like working with your clients or taking on new clients, influence the way that you, empower your team to help support the work that you're doing?
That's a great question because I believe wholeheartedly you got to empower your employees to do stuff, to make decisions for you. And that comes from you building the right culture in your business in order for your employees to feel that, if I make this decision, even if it might be the wrong decision, at least I made a decision and we can learn from it. The two things I used to work for a gentleman. He sold his business. This was well over 15 years ago for $6.5 billion. He was a brilliant businessman. And he taught me two things. The first thing is you can never go wrong by doing the right thing. And my apologies, I just slipped to the second one. But really, that's what I empower my employees to do. If there's the right thing to do, just do it. Right? I'll give you a perfect example. A couple of weeks ago, actually, about 2 weeks ago, we had this huge crowd strike where it took down like 8.5 million computers because of a bad update. And I got embroiled in some discussions with other service providers that do what I do. And they were like, how are you billing your clients for this? And I'm like, why would you bill your clients for this? Because they didn't do anything wrong. It's not like their employee went in and screwed something up and took down their whole network. This was done by a product that you provide to your customers that's screwed up. So you should be looking at how to build CrowdStrike for this time, not your customer. And as much as it's hard to do work for free, this is one you just have to take on the chin and not charge your customer, because that's the right thing to do, at least in my opinion, right? So I operate that, you know what, if there's the right thing to do, just do the right thing, right?
And sometimes when it's a decision between your livelihood and serving somebody else, that can be a very difficult bridge to cross. And having a team that you have enabled or empowered to be able to make those decisions while they're working or while they're serving is really, really important. And by the sounds of it, Thomas, there's an importance that you have placed on your customers' experience when they work with you. Could you maybe share what some of the different stages are in terms of how you find your customers, how you kind of onboard them, and then how do you maintain those relationships for the long term?
So with what I do, specifically when it comes to cybersecurity and the compliance portion that we're now facing, is I look at this as a partnership with businesses. The partnership is you're hiring me to come in to secure your business from the nefarious elements that are on the internet, to keep you in business. And as a reward for being able to do that, you're going to pay me to do that, right? So it's sort of a partnership that I'm keeping you in business, and because of that, you're compensating me a financial sum. But when it comes down to it, the first thing I do in this, I'm starting a new a couple week ad campaign that you don't know what you need to know, because a lot of businesses right now don't know that. They don't know what they need to know. And so the first thing I've got to do is educate them. And so all I want to do is have a conversation with them. I'm not coming out the door to try to immediately sell them something. I'm not trying to, and I don't sell off of fear either, because I could sell off of fear very easily. But the problem is when I sell out of fear, then they're buying into the fear and become very reluctant partners in wanting to do things. But when I explain why we're doing things, I educate them, then they understand why we have to do these things, and they're more willing, and then they are that champion I need them to be, because when their employees start pushing back, they're able to come and say, no, this is what we need to do. We have valid business reasons for doing it, and that's what we're doing. So for me, it's all about just having a conversation. Don't try to sell it right out the door, especially, and then don't sell out of fear. Become that trusted advisor, become that partner, and when they are ready to actually buy, you're going to be there. I used to be told that it took like 8 to 10 contacts before somebody would buy from you. They're now saying that because of social media, that number is somewhere between like 50 and 60 contacts before they're going to buy from you. So you've got to consistently do things to put yourself at the top of their list.
You know what's interesting about that, and I've had this instinct for a long time, we've sort of cheapened the message. And I think that because that we are so accessible through platforms like social media, uh, it's really easy to ignore the advertising that appears there, especially when it's bad advertising. And so it does raise this concern about how you communicate with the people that you want to serve and do it in a way that establishes trust, gets them to know and like you, and then beyond that, want to engage with you. And so instead of it being, the 5 to 7 really genuine, really authentic, um, thoughtful interactions with a business, you like you alluded to, there's 50 or 60 tiny little touches that you kind of just have to appear there, appear there, appear there. And then every once in a while, somebody like Thomas will come around with something useful, like an educational piece of content. And that really stands out in an ecosystem that is so noisy, because for the person who's receiving it, it feels like there's actually there's an authenticity to you and your desire to want to serve. But I guess that does kind of pose its challenges in and of itself. If there's 50 or 60 of these touch points, how do you manage that? What sorts of challenges, bottlenecks, or like friction comes up along the way when you are trying to communicate with a prospect?
Really, it's trying to figure out one, who your client is, and how does your client find you, right? So because I do a lot of business to business stuff. I go to LinkedIn. I'm consistently posting on LinkedIn versus Facebook, because Facebook is more, depending on the business. If you're a business to consumer, great for Facebook because that's where consumers live. It's on Facebook.
Hmm.
But I'm doing businesses, so I want to focus my time on businesses on LinkedIn. So I'll post a couple times a week. I'll have some automated posting service posts, just some random stuff about IT and cybersecurity. I try to come up with at least one article a week that I can post regarding something that may be happening in the IT world or something that I've come across in the last week of how it relates to my potential customer. And then I'll do videos. I'm working on getting a YouTube channel set up. So I could do at least a video a week and posting to YouTube. But really, it goes back to I have to educate my client or my potential client before they understand why they need me. So that's really what I focus on. If you are a clothing designer, you may want Instagram or one of those other type of apps, right? One of those other type of. So you really want to go to where your client or your potential customer is going to be and focus on that. And then one of the things I don't do, and I tried this, was pay per click, right? Pay for those advertising spots. For me, at least, it didn't work. And I know why. And that's because no one's out there searching for cybersecurity right now. They're not going to Google and typing in cybersecurity because it's the last thing they want to deal with. So pay-per-click wasn't working for me. It wasn't driving me anymore. But really getting a small marketing campaign, doing a newsletter once a month, if that fits your business, doing videos, and then reaching wherever your customers are.
Yeah, and getting that offer dialed in and the messaging and targeting the right people. There's so many moving parts in it. As you've pointed at, there's multiple platforms. There's all the different types of content that you can create. There's, search engine optimization. So in a world that's full of all of this opportunity, it's cool to see somebody who's narrowed in on what they know and trust that works, and then really get that dialed in. Thomas, I'm curious, what types of milestones or points in that customer journey are you measuring to determine whether or not that campaign, let's just call it, is a success?
So what I'm doing, like pay-per-click, the times that I've done it, I just wanted to see the click-through ratios, right? How many impressions am I getting versus how many clicks versus how many actual turn into a contact?
Mhm.
This last campaign I did, yeah, I was offering a free external cybersecurity scan, right?
Mhm.
And I burnt through a couple $100. I got a couple dozen clicks, and not a single one of them submitted the form to do the freebie, right?
That's tough.
Maybe it was my messaging, or maybe they just didn't feel that that was something they cared about at the moment. So I'm still trying to dial in that messaging,
Hmm.
because I think it's important for businesses and even people to learn what the internet knows about them. So,
Yeah, that's definitely something very important when it comes to getting that message dialed in and testing different things. I know that there's a certain level of patience that's required in the way that you execute, what your expectation is, how you are measuring that, what happens on the other side. And so, yeah, there's a whole bunch of moving parts to get dialed in. And, if it's even through those efforts, you may learn that perhaps this isn't even the right platform, which I think is something too that a lot of businesses need to consider when they're going through that kind of, marketing headaches of trying to get things figured out and dialing it all in. Um, we're kind of coming up to the end of our time together here, Thomas, and I'm very grateful for the insights that you've shared so far. I wonder if what we could look forward into the future a little bit here, and maybe you could share some of the upcoming trends or cool things that are coming down the pipeline that maybe you're excited about.
one of the big things that has me excited is this artificial intelligence, AI, in how it's transforming how we're doing business today.
Hmm.
Um, it's on a rapid growth scale, which is crazy. Um, and depending on who you ask, there's either 5 or 10 different levels to AI. And they're like, we've just barely scratched the surface. We're like at a 1.5 to a 2 when it comes to what AI can actually do for us. And it's going to present challenges. Because I tell people, AI will replace your job, not going to stop it. So what does that mean for us? That means we have to now become really subject matter experts in our fields, because AI will always be able to do whatever it's programmed to do,
Hmm.
right? But the subject matter expert is going to be able to come in and say, hey, I missed that. We can add this tax deduction and it's going to save you 5 grand, right? And so that's where our jobs are going to be, is that we're going to have to be subject matter experts in what we do now, allow AI to do what it's going to do. And then we come in and pick up the pieces and finish putting the last couple puzzle pieces. But the power of AI and how it's going to transform even what I do, and I use it now to help me protect networks and to help identify threats that may be on networks. It's amazing what it's doing now, and every day it's something new. So
Yeah, I said this before, and I'll keep saying it because I think that everybody needs to kind of wrap their mind around the idea that this is the worst that AI is going to ever be. And it's pretty darn good, all things considered. And so I can only imagine what the future holds for how we're going to deploy these tools. And I mean, just looking back, not even 100 years in time, we used to have to walk behind a cow to plow the field. And now we have advanced GPS tracking infrared systems inside of giant combines that do the same work but just more sophisticated. And so the farmers aren't not farmers. They just have to use the more sophisticated tools that exist to do their jobs more effectively and efficiently. And so to your point, yeah, there is a threat of people losing their jobs, but I think maybe only in the way of not being able to be uh, flexible enough to experiment and learn and try these new tools and implement them into your existing systems and processes. So it's a good point that you make, for anybody that's listening or watching to pay attention to what's happening and get in there, get your hands dirty. You're not going to break anything. And if you do, that's probably a good thing because it's going to help evolve these tools, which is really cool to be a part of. What about with Citadel, Thomas? What are you guys aiming at? Are you kind of happy where you are? Are you aiming at some growth? Are you taking on new team members? What's in store for the future of Citadel?
So I'm looking to be more of a regional player. I would really love to be the go-to cybersecurity company in the Pacific Northwest. So that would mean granting up closer to your area, up into Seattle, over into Boise, and maybe having some smaller satellite offices in some of the smaller cities. But I really want to be a regional player and have some growth in those areas and really help small businesses because we're seeing a lot of consolidation right now with different mergers and acquisitions. You've got some big national companies trying to nationalize cybersecurity, but you don't necessarily want a big national company if you're a company of 10 people. That's not what you need. Now, if you're a national company with offices all over the U.S., you need a big national company to handle all that.
Right.
But because, like I said, we started off with saying this is a partnership, right?
Mm.
You want to be able to get a hold of your IT guy. And I'll tell people, if you can't sit down and have a cup of coffee with your IT guy, you need a new IT guy.
That's a good rule of thumb.
So that's really where I hope to go in the next decade, just to really become that and then eventually exit. So, because that's ultimately what we're going for, right? The exit strategy.
Right. Yeah, get that big paycheck at the end of the period. This has been really great, Thomas. There's a lot you've shared and it's been very valuable for me at least. I can't speak on behalf of the viewers, but I think they're going to enjoy the conversation. If you could maybe just to kind of wrap things up here, if there was a piece of advice that you could offer somebody in a similar position to you, aiming at similar things, what would that advice be?
That advice would be don't get stuck in the loop or the stopping point of what to do,
Mm,
right? Always be moving forward. Figure out what you can do today to move your business forward, right? Don't get stuck not making a decision. Make a decision. It's the wrong decision. You can always change it. But a lot of us will get stuck in paralysis, not knowing what to do. And so we won't do anything. And that will ultimately kill your business.
yeah, losing momentum or getting stuck, the analysis paralysis, those are all very dangerous things for moving a company forward. So maintaining momentum and just getting in there. You know what I love about that is it reminds me of Gary Vaynerchuk says when it comes to making these big decisions in terms of growing your business, you're never going to know the alternative. You're never going to know what the other choices would have led to. So you just have to commit to that thing and then hang on for the ride, right? I love that that's your mantra. That's a very powerful. If somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain or work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I've got my QR code right there. They just scan that. That will get all my contact information to them.
Beautiful.
And they can email me. They can schedule a meeting. They can text me. The only thing I don't do, I think, at the moment is smoke signals. I haven't figured out. Or you can engage with me on LinkedIn. So
Beautiful. We'll make sure to link to the LinkedIn in the show notes, and anybody that's watching can scan that QR code and get in touch with you. This has been wonderful, Thomas. Thank you for sharing your time with me.
thank you, Devin, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everybody that's watching and listening, if you wanted to get in touch with me and my team for any marketing solutions, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode, and I will see you in the next.